My beloved child, the moment you opened these words was also the moment the horizon before your soul trembled gently, as though a thin, invisible veil had just been lifted from the eyes of your spirit. There are moments in life that do not arrive with loud noises, storms, or blazing flashes of light. Yet they carry such weight that even the unseen realm bows in acknowledgement. This is the moment when destiny no longer stands still to observe, but begins to move toward you, drawing near enough to whisper a truth only those touched by the light of heaven can perceive. That moment is happening right now, spreading through the atmosphere and merging with the faint vibrations you cannot explain with reason. Yet your heart recognizes deeply. My child, let me tell you what is unfolding. As your heart turned toward these lines, a subtle yet powerful shift emanated from the higher realms. It is not a fleeting emotion, nor an unexplainable sensitivity. It is the response of the sacred realm to a soul finally opening at the appointed time. A very soft resonance, like the breath of dawn, brushed against the space surrounding you. A quiet wave spread from the center of your soul, making you feel as though a pull not belonging to the physical world were guiding you toward things you have never known. That feeling is not an illusion, nor a coincidence. It is the very first reaction of heaven as you step into the territory marked for revelation. Child, every soul standing at the threshold of a turning point senses this signal, a signal not born from fear, but from the awakening of something that has slept within you for a very long time. It is a feeling both light and heavy, warm and trembling, as though the deepest part of you is being stirred awake. In the innermost layers, where your spirit is usually silent, a door has quietly opened, revealing a light you had not dared to look at directly before. That light makes your heart tighten for a moment, then expand as if recognizing it has finally found the right direction. In that movement, you begin to hear things that the noise of life once caused you to overlook. And in this very moment, Archangel Michael is drawing near, not with earthly footsteps, but with a presence that makes the atmosphere around you deepen, grow heavier, and brighten in a mysterious way. He does not come to startle you or cause you fear, but as a witness of heaven, standing beside you at the precise moment destiny begins to shift. You cannot see him with physical eyes, but your soul recognizes him clearly. It is the sensation of someone observing you with tenderness intertwined with solemnity, like a guardian who holds a radiant sword and protects this moment so nothing can intrude upon it. My child, Archangel Michael is always present in such moments, those turning points, when life shifts direction, even though nothing outward appears different. He stands there silently and unwavering, confirming that the movement you feel is not imagination, but the reality of the spiritual realm. It is the movement of your destiny. It is heaven's response to your soul. And right now, in this quiet space, the invisible thread connecting you to the next chapter of your life begins to tighten, as though heaven itself has touched it and drawn it forward. You may wonder, why can I only sense this movement when encountering this message? Why did the shift not happen when I dreamed, when I prayed, or when I suffered, my beloved child? There are moments along the journey that cannot unfold before their appointed time. Heaven does not operate according to human impatience, but according to the rhythms of inner preparation. When your heart has opened wide enough to receive, when your wounds have healed enough not to distort the truth, when your patience has deepened enough to carry what is great, then the door of destiny begins to tremble. The vibrations you feel now mark that your soul has stepped into its rightful position, like a puzzle piece, finally fitting the divine pattern formed long before. Therefore, this moment is not accidental. It is the intersection between your preparation and heaven's movement. You are standing before a new horizon, where the light does not come from the sun but from the will of the Creator. This is the moment when the door of destiny begins to open, not with sound, but with a shift in the spiritual atmosphere around you. You may not see it with your eyes, but your spirit is sensing a gentle beam of light touching your soul, pushing back the darkness and dissolving every trace of uncertainty. My child, the trembling you are experiencing is not ordinary. It is the very first sign of a response from heaven. It is like the gentle touch of an unseen hand upon your heart, causing you to pause, breathe more deeply, and realize that you have just stepped into a place so sacred that everything outside suddenly falls silent. That silence is not empty, it is filled with the presence of the heavens. It makes you feel small yet embraced, fragile yet fiercely protected. That is why heaven chooses certain moments to redirect a soul. Not because the soul is strong, but because the soul has finally become ready. Not because you persevered, but because you have reached a maturity where you can now hold what is good without losing it. These moments appear only a few times in a lifetime. Rare, like the first breath of dawn before the sun rises. Only when the spiritual eyes are opened and the heart becomes sensitive to the signals of light can you recognize that your destiny has just shifted. And the very moment you open this message is one of those rare moments. A moment in which Archangel Michael stands before your soul as a witness to the great opening waiting ahead. My child, do not dismiss what you are feeling. It is not coincidence. It is the echo of heaven, signaling that the horizon before you is widening, ready to lead you into the chapter you were destined for long ago, but never ready enough to enter until now. My beloved child, as you step deeper into the sacred current unfolding before you, I want you to understand a reality the human eye will never be able to see. It is the realm where angels move as softly as breath, yet their power can alter the entire direction of a person's life. It is a space without noise, without spectacle, without visible signs. Yet it contains fierce battles your soul has never known. That realm operates parallel to your life, intertwined with every decision, every breath, every step you think you take by mere emotion or logic. But in truth, there is an entire heavenly army shifting with every movement of your spirit. In that realm, angels do not speak with words or call with voices, but they communicate through subtle touches in your emotions, inexplicable urgings, doors that suddenly open or abruptly close. You think life is sometimes interrupted, sometimes broken, sometimes fractured without reason. But my child, nothing in the spiritual world is without reason. Every closure you see as failure is actually protection. Every departure that wounds you is purification. Every door that looked promising but did not open was an invisible intervention to keep your soul from being drawn into a spiral of destruction you could not foresee. My child, there are moments in your life when you pray for something to happen, yet heaven remains silent. You assume heaven is ignoring you. You assume your prayer is not strong enough. You assume you are unworthy. But the truth is that heaven remains silent because what you desired at that time would not bring peace, nor would it strengthen your soul. There are doors which, if opened while you were still weak, would have swept you into chaos you had no strength to withstand. There are people who, if they had stayed, would have diverted your soul before you even realized it. And there are opportunities that, if you had seized too early, would have become burdens instead of blessings. Heaven's unseen intervention does not arrive in the form of dazzling miracles, but in the form of delays, blockages, and sudden endings. These things are not punishments. They are strategies. They are boundaries. They are shields made of the invisible. You look at the surface and think life is turning its back on you. But heaven is looking deep into your future and erecting layers of protection to guard your soul from wounds that would break you beyond repair. Have you ever wondered why certain people who were once close suddenly become distant? Why some relationships that seem destined dissolve without warning? Why you are pulled out of an environment that once appeared right for you, Why a great door refuses to open even though you prepared so carefully for it, my child. None of these events are accidents. They are the gentle movements of heaven shifting you away from dangerous paths. If those people had stayed, you would have been swallowed into battles you were not prepared to fight. If those environments had held you, your soul would have been trapped in a land where growth could never take root. If those opportunities had opened, they would have led you into places where the light within you would have been extinguished. And it is in the very moments when you feel left out, rejected, or isolated that heaven is actually carrying out its strongest interventions. You feel pain because you cannot see the battlefield unfolding in the unseen realm. You feel disappointment because your eyes cannot behold the angels standing in ranks around you, shielding you from the spears that have been raised against you without your knowledge. You cry because you think you have been abandoned, while heaven is pulling you away from places that would have destroyed you. In this silence, Archangel Michael stands at the front line as the commander. He sees through time and perceives everything you are unaware of. He sees the conversation spoken behind your back that you have never heard. He sees the subtle schemes engineered to hinder the growth of your soul. He sees the strands of negative energy someone has sent toward you. He sees the crossroads that look peaceful but conceal disaster. He sees the handshakes that appear friendly but are wrapped in hidden intentions. And because he sees it all, he intervenes first. But his intervention does not appear as a blazing figure across the sky. It takes place through subtle shifts in the reality around you by closing a door you thought you were about to walk through, by allowing someone to leave your life without an explanation, by placing a strange uneasiness in your heart that you cannot articulate, by nudging you toward what is right before error has a chance to take root. Archangel Michael is not only a protector, he is the one who sees what the future conceals. He lays the groundwork for coming revelation by preparing your heart before you hear the truth. He knows that if your soul is still exhausted, you will not endure the light. If you remain entangled in unhealthy connections, you will not be light enough to step into the new season. If you cling to people who do not belong to your path, you will have no room to receive what heaven is sending. You may not hear his footsteps, but his presence covers you like armor. You may not see his eyes, but your soul knows when he draws near. It is when the atmosphere around you suddenly falls into a peculiar stillness. It is when your heart feels heavy for a moment and then suddenly light, as if something has just been lifted off you. It is when your intuition whispers that you must trust what cannot be explained by human sight. It is when you feel yourself being gently but firmly pulled away from where you used to stand. My child, that invisible intervention is unfolding even as you read these words. It does not arrive through sound, but through the secret movements of heaven. And Archangel Michael stands there, gazing across the long line of time, preparing to unveil to you the truth that heaven has kept hidden to spare you unnecessary pain. You are stepping into a moment where the spiritual and the physical intersect, where what is about to be revealed will change not only your emotions, but the entire direction of your life. My beloved child, now I must draw back the veil that has been covering the hidden side of your life, so you may finally see what has been quietly surrounding your soul for far longer than you realized. There are things that did not arise from your decisions, but from the energy of those standing near you, from their thoughts, their words, their attitudes, and their intentions continually directed toward you. You have felt tired without knowing why, heavy without understanding the source, hesitant even when no visible obstacle stood in your way. These were not fleeting emotions. They were the traces of dark currents trying to cast a shadow over the light within you. There is someone or a group of people who stood closer to your life than you imagined. They smiled at you, showed concern, and entered your story as though they came to comfort you. But deep within, their hearts were not aligned with the frequency of the light you carry. They could not understand you, and even more, They could not accept that your soul was called to rise higher, shine brighter, and go deeper than theirs. And so instead of celebrating you, they began sending toward you heavy thoughts, quiet judgments, subtle comparisons, restrictive expectations, and even hidden wishes that you would pause, falter, or fail just enough to make them feel more comfortable with themselves. These things do not remain merely as feelings. Every thought carries an imprint. Every spoken word carries a wave. Every concealed attitude carries an energetic field. When these are repeated again and again, they form invisible cords, stretching toward your soul like tiny anchors hooking into your emotions, your thoughts, and your choices. When you start doubting yourself, when you suddenly feel exhausted doing tasks you normally handle with ease, when you sense something pulling you backward whenever you try to step forward, these are signs that those cords have been tugging. My child, I do not speak these words to make you live in fear or suspicion, but to help you understand the principle of energetic cords that form between one soul and another. Every relationship leaves an imprint. Every time you place your trust in someone, offer your attention, or pour affection into a connection, you are creating a line that runs from your soul to theirs. When that line is nourished by sincerity, honor, and love, it becomes a channel of blessing and support. But when it becomes filled with jealousy, bitterness, control, or judgment, it starts carrying streams of darkness that slip quietly into your inner being. This is why there are moments when you walk away from a conversation and suddenly feel your heart sink, your mind fog over, and your confidence in yourself diminish. It is because, through words that seem harmless and through looks that seem ordinary, a portion of shadowed energy has found a way to spill onto you. Some people do not ask for your destruction, yet they allow their jealousy, pride, wounds, and ambition to become channels through which darkness sends its heaviness toward you. That is why Ephesians 6:1-2 says that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, the rulers of the darkness of this world, and spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. You are not fighting merely human attitudes, you are confronting forces that exploit those attitudes. But my child, I have not left you in a passive position. Your faith is not an abstract idea. It is a sword that cuts through the invisible threads trying to coil themselves around your soul. Every time you rise inwardly and declare, I choose the light, I reject the lies spoken about me, I place my worth in God's hands, I refuse to let fear define my path, you are not simply giving yourself comfort. You are sending a clear signal to heaven and issuing a command for the angelic armies to move. When faith responds, the cords attempting to tighten around your soul begin to stretch and weaken. They cannot hold fast to a soul that chooses truth. The negative voices, whether they come from people close to you or from distant rumors, gradually lose their grip. Where they once dug deep roots, they now encounter the shield of trust within you. When you stop allowing your heart to be controlled by the approval or criticism of others, those heavy energetic currents lose their anchor. Faith may not change people instantly, but it transforms the spiritual environment within you so that you are no longer a field where toxic energies can operate. The first moment of separation arrives quietly. It may be when you notice you are no longer easily wounded by someone's words as you once were. It may be when you begin to see the true nature of a relationship that you had previously covered with a beautiful veil. It may be when you stop trying to prove yourself to people who never truly intended to understand you. When this happens, it means the light has begun to cut through the invisible bonds. Like a thin but sharp blade, the light of truth slips between layers of dust and illusion, separating what belongs to you from what was never meant for you. You will notice yourself breathing more freely, even though your circumstances have not changed. You will feel lighter even though no one has apologized or compensated for the hurt they caused. You will find yourself standing taller within, even while unfair words still linger around you. This is not emotional numbness. It is the sign that your soul is being unbound. The cords that once tightened around you are loosening. The connections that once kept you from stepping into a new chapter are losing their power. The voices that once dictated your emotions no longer hold the authority they used to. My child, I speak to you now to tell you that a chapter of your life is preparing to close, not with a slam, but with a slow, deliberate, conscious movement. That chapter holds relationships that have reached their natural ending, mindsets that have grown old, emotional patterns that have drained you, and cycles that have kept you walking endlessly without arriving anywhere. I'm not asking you to deny what has been. I'm inviting you to look back with gratitude for the lessons, while also knowing when to release what has expired. A page cannot continue to be written on if you keep filling it with memories that have already completed their purpose. A new page cannot open if you cling to the old lines and try to stretch them beyond their time. There are moments when you must accept that a chapter is complete, not because you failed, but because I have decided to move you into another season. Archangel Michael stands beside you, his hand resting on the edge of the page, waiting for the moment you agree to let it close. He does not force you. He waits for your cooperation. When your soul says yes, when you are ready to detach yourself from energies that exhaust you, he will gently turn the page, leading you into the part of your life story you have never read before. My child, do not fear when certain people drift away, when certain doors no longer open, or when familiar paths lose their sense of comfort. This is not a sign of loss. It is a sign that a new chapter is awaiting you. Separation may sting for a moment, but holding on to harmful ties will cause your soul to ache for far longer. I choose for you the path that leads to freedom. Light has already begun to cut through the darkness behind you. Allow me, together with Archangel Michael, to lead you into the new page where your story is no longer written by fear or draining energies, but by peace, truth, and the blessings that were destined for your spirit from the beginning. My beloved child, now is the moment I am opening to you things you were never permitted to know before. Some truths were not withheld to punish you, but to protect you, preserved until your soul was strong enough, bright enough, and steady enough not to collapse under their weight. Certain truths can only be revealed when the heart is mature enough to respond not with fear, but with wisdom. Today is such a moment. I am taking you through the veil that has covered your life for so long, so you may see clearly the things that took place in silence, yet shaped your destiny directly. There have been conversations spoken behind your back, whispers exchanged in darkness, stories created in your name and distorted by those who did not want to see your light expand. Not everyone you trusted was sincere with you. Not every smile reflected goodwill. Not every act of kindness was born from genuine love. Some stood beside you only because they believed they could control you. Some befriended you only to collect information to use as weapons later. And worse still, there were those who entered your life not with honesty, but with discontent, envy, and an emptiness they sought to fill by pulling you down to their level. Plans were formed out of jealousy. Words that sounded harmless carried long tales of judgment, planting in others misperceptions that caused you to be misunderstood. Some people saw your growth as a threat, not something to celebrate, and from that place, streams of negative influence began to spread like toxic mist. No one told you directly, but you sensed it. You felt the watchful, wary eyes. You felt your actions being questioned for no reason. You felt your spirit drop without knowing why. My child, these were not imaginary. They were the result of conversations you were absent from, but whose effects your soul carried. Indeed, You have wondered why moments of smooth progress suddenly slowed. Why a door that seemed ready to open shut itself just before you reached it. Why something you longed for never arrived despite your effort, prayers, and perseverance. My child, blessings do not come late because heaven forgets you. Blessings arrive later because heaven sees what you cannot. When a negative energy is directed toward you, it does more than affect your emotions. It clouds your clarity, shakes your confidence, distorts your vision, and influences your decisions. And even the smallest misalignment in a decision can cause the blessing that was meant for you to fall into the hands of another. Heaven never allows your blessing to be stolen. Yet when you stand in a space affected by slander, hidden hostility, harmful intentions, or words spoken against you in secret, that blessing must pause not as punishment, but as protection, so your soul is not swept into things that could cause you to lose yourself. Delay is not failure. Delay is a wall of mercy raised to shield you. If a blessing arrives at the wrong time, it can be ruined by those who are unworthy of standing near it. If a blessing arrives while you are still weighed down, you may not have the clarity to guard it. My child, I want you to understand this principle when heaven withholds. It is not rejection, but a rescue from what you have not yet perceived. If you receive a blessing while your mind is still shaped by poisonous words, you will question it. If you receive love while your heart is still distorted by old experiences, you will damage it. If you walk through a new door while your soul is still wounded by past relationships, you will carry those injuries into a place that was meant to heal you. Heaven will not allow such a thing. Remember, my child, that those quiet conversations and hidden intentions are never outside heaven's sight. Not a single word spoken against you escapes the ears of Archangel Michael. No malicious plan hides from his view. He sees the root of every matter, not only the result. He knows who is sincere toward you and who remains beside you only for personal benefit. He sees who desires your success and who is waiting for a moment of weakness to twist your story. He sees all, and because he sees all, he has already intercepted many things that you never knew were about to strike your life. There were cruel words extinguished before they reached the ears of someone important. There were schemes intended to harm you that were diverted without your awareness. There were falls that felt painful. Yet, in truth, they were heaven's way of steering you away from a deeper abyss. There were doors that closed and made you weep. Yet every tear saved you from a far greater wound. And sometimes you sigh and ask, why must everything I receive be tested first? Why do I have to wait longer than others, my child? It is because what is destined for you is greater than what others hold. Souls carrying greater weight must be built with greater care. Destinies carrying more light must be protected with more intention. A precious stone requires long pressure to shine. A tree that withstands fierce winds becomes strong enough to stand through storms. And I want you to understand this as well. You are not slowed because you are weak, but because you are significant. You are not delayed because you are wrong, but because heaven is preparing the right environment for you to enter without being harmed. You are not abandoned, you are shielded. You are not forgotten, you are kept beneath a covering that others do not have. My child, the truth has been hidden in silence, not to keep you blind, but to preserve your heart from confusion until you are strong enough to face the revelation heaven is about to unveil. And now, as you stand at the place where the veil begins to lift, prepare your heart. What Archangel Michael is about to show you is not fear, but confirmation that you have always been protected in every step, even when you did not know what was happening behind your back. My beloved child, you have arrived at the place. Every maturing soul must one day face the threshold that divides your journey, where two paths open before you like two opposing calls, and only one leads to the destiny written for you. Archangel Michael stands beside you at that intersection, not to choose for you, but to illuminate the map engraved in your soul before you entered this world. He raises his hand toward the two directions, and in his eyes you can feel the solemnity of this moment, a moment so significant that even the heavens pause to witness it. The first path is the familiar path. It stretches forward with steps you have already taken, paved with habits, thought patterns, and emotional cycles you know so well that you no longer need to think. That path is safe, predictable, and unchallenging, not because it is vast, but because it demands no transformation from you. No matter how far you walk upon that familiar road, you merely repeat your own loop. It is like a still surface of water, calm, not dangerous, yet without a current that leads to the ocean. In that place, the soul is not wounded, but neither is it expanded. There, you do not fall, but you also do not fly. The second path is the path of destiny. It does not shine brightly from the beginning. It begins as a faint glow, like the first hint of dawn before the sun rises. And the farther you walk, the stronger that light becomes. Archangel Michael declares that this is the very path that holds the blessings long withheld, the opportunities delayed, the breakthroughs that once hovered so close to your life but could never enter because the season had not yet matured. This is not an easy road. It is a path that challenges the soul, requiring you to release what is old in order to embrace what is new. It asks for faith, perseverance, and a level of surrender your heart has sometimes been afraid to offer. But, my child, this is the path that carries the deepest meaning in your life, the path upon which, the moment your soul steps forward, heaven responds. Archangel Michael reveals to you the stark contrast between the two paths. One is familiarity, comfort, and quiet stability without growth. The other is a beckoning light, a field of transformation, footsteps that tremble yet carry new life. The interesting thing is that the familiar path often appears clearer to the rational mind, while the path of destiny shines brighter to the soul. The mind sees risk, the soul sees promise. The mind sees uncertainty, the soul recognizes opportunity. The mind asks, "Is this safe?" While the soul asks, "Is this true to who I am, my child?" A crossroad is not merely a poetic concept. It is the symbol of choosing your truest self. At this threshold, the light is not blazing like lightning, but gentle, like a flame that refuses to be extinguished by the wind. Hiddenness exists not to hinder you, but to help only the sincere-hearted find their way. The quiet invitation is not deception, but a chance for your soul to recognize truth from within. And the challenge is not meant to make you fearful or discouraged, but to prove that your soul has matured enough to step into the role destined for you. Why is the light hidden, you may ask? Because light revealed too early attracts what does not belong to you. Concealed light protects the secrets of your destiny from eyes burdened with jealousy. It reveals just enough for the pure-hearted to discover, but never enough for those who carry darkness to exploit. With every step you take toward the light, it widens a little more, as if asking whether you truly wish to continue or are merely curious for a moment. This threshold is like a divine invitation, a call sent only to souls standing at the right moment of transformation. Everyone reaches this crossroad at least once, but not everyone dares to follow the path that destiny offers. Many stand at the intersection only to return to the familiar road out of fear of pain, loss, or change. They choose safety because they believe safety is the best they can hope for. But for you, heaven has written a different story. Your soul has the ability to recognize the right path long before your mind can reason it out. This is not emotional impulse. It is the signature of destiny. The soul was created before the intellect, and it knows the way home. When you stand before a choice, Your soul will tremble in ways you cannot explain. That may feel like relief, or a gentle warmth in your chest, or a powerful pull, even when logic insists the choice is too risky. At other times, your soul may react with unease towards something that appears good because it knows that it is not the road meant for you. My child, listen closely. The mind sees the surface of the path, but the soul sees the essence of it. The mind hears the noise outside, but the soul hears the whisper of heaven. The mind wants safety, but the soul wants truth. And truth is not always the safest option. Truth is the path ordained by the one who created you, the very path Archangel Michael is showing you now. When your soul leans toward the path of destiny, you will feel as though a small stream of light is entering your inner being. It does not excite you, it steadies you. It does not make you want to rush, it makes you want to step with intention. It does not make you proud, it makes you humble yet strong. This is the first sign that your soul has recognized the road that belongs to it. Conversely, when you think about the familiar path and your soul sinks, that is a warning. That road may be safe for the body, but it is not safe for your destiny. It may preserve stability, but it destroys expansion. It may offer you the comfort of control, but it steals the opportunity to step into the divine design intended for your life. Archangel Michael knows precisely which path belongs to you. He does not force you to choose, but he stands ready to illuminate the road of destiny until your soul fully recognizes it. In the sacred stillness, he places his hand upon your shoulder as if to say, "You do not walk alone, and you are not called to return to the old path. You are called to step into the light that has awaited you since the beginning. My child, you are standing at the threshold where the journey divides, where the old meets the new, where the familiar faces, destiny, where the darkness tries to draw you back, yet the light patiently invites you to move forward. Let your soul choose before the mind calculates. Let your heart lead before fear begins its reasoning. And when you step forward, the heavens will open a way for you, my beloved child. The moment you stand before the threshold of destiny is also the moment when everything that once bound your soul begins to tremble. There are chains that make no sound, that reveal nothing to human eyes, and yet have silently tightened around your heart, your thoughts, and your choices for a very long time. They are the distorted beliefs you carried about yourself, the judgments of others you unintentionally absorbed as truth, the bitter memories you thought you had forgotten but that still seep into your reactions. They are relationships that pulled you backward, fears so deeply rooted that you mistook them for personality, for identity. All these things form invisible cords that keep pulling your soul behind, even while you long to step forward. In this holy moment, Archangel Michael is not merely watching. He is not a silent witness. He is the warrior sent to act on behalf of what you cannot accomplish alone. In his hand is a radiant sword, not forged by earthly metal, but woven from truth, righteousness, and the power of the one who called you by name. This blade does not strike flesh or people. It strikes the chains wrapped around your soul, cutting through the bondages that the darkness labored tirelessly to construct over the years. My child, you are not imagining it. There were times when you felt as if you were about to step into a new chapter. Yet the old rose again. Old emotions resurfaced. Old fears flooded your heart. You felt as if an unseen force was holding you back. That is because the cords were never fully broken, only loosened for a moment. They remained there, waiting for you to grow weary so they might tighten again. But today, what is happening is no longer temporary. This is not a moment of loosening, it is a moment of breaking. This is the hour when Archangel Michael raises his sword, not to threaten you, but to decisively free you from the cycles that have exhausted your strength for so long. You are now standing at the intersection point between what was and what is coming. Behind you are the days of hardship, wounds, missteps, and the hidden tears no one saw. Ahead of you is what heaven has long prepared: a new land, a new chapter, a new version of yourself. This intersection is not a place for you to remain in endless hesitation. It is the place where you witness the moment of separation, when the past no longer has the right to define the future, and when the forces that once held you cannot pull you back any longer. From the outside, no one may notice what is happening. The days pass as usual. Your face appears unchanged, and life continues in its ordinary rhythm. But in the spiritual realm, this is a moment recorded by the heavens. This is a marked point on the timeline of your life. Before it lies a region covered by shadows and restraint. After it lies a region where the light begins to expand its dominion. Archangel Michael lifts his sword, and the instant the luminous blade touches the invisible chords, a sound not heard by human ears reverberates like glass cracking from within. Those chains may have been formed from words such as, "You're not good enough. You will always be the same. You can't change anything. No one truly needs you. You were not born to shine." They may also have been woven from the fragments of broken experiences, teaching you to believe that every love eventually leaves. Every trust ends in betrayal. Every opportunity concludes in disappointment. Each time you believed those words or experiences as truth, you wrapped another layer of binding around your heart. Eventually, you forgot that you were created to walk in freedom. But my child, when a soul begins to awaken, the darkness loses its power to cling as it once did. Awakening is not a vague idea. It is the moment you begin to recognize the lies hidden beneath seemingly reasonable statements. It is when you look into the mirror and stop repeating the sentences that condemn you. It is when you hear again the words that once wounded you but no longer allow them to dictate your worth. It is when you realize that the limits placed upon you were only the projections of someone else's fear, not the intention of God. From that moment onward, darkness loses its foothold within you. The principle is simple, yet profoundly deep. Darkness can cling only to the places where the soul has not yet realized it carries light. As long as you believe you are worthless, darkness will attach itself to that belief through shame and inferiority. As long as you believe you are abandoned, darkness will anchor itself through loneliness and doubt. As long as you believe you are unloved, darkness will grip you through unhealthy relationships that reinforce that very lie. But when the light of truth begins to shine, those anchors slowly dissolve. You start to see clearly that you were never alone, that there has always been one who watched over you, covered you, wept with you, and cared for you even when no one else did. In the moment your soul acknowledges this, the sword of Archangel Michael begins to strike. He does not strike at you, but at the false words that have been engraved into your mind. Every stroke is a correction. You are not abandoned. You are chosen. You are not worthless. You are wonderfully made. You are not weak. You are being forged into strength. You are not destined to live in fear. You are meant to walk in peace. Each time truth is affirmed, a chain breaks. Each time you agree with truth instead of holding on to the lie, another strand falls away from your soul. My child, pay attention to the subtle changes emerging within your heart. You may notice that the fear which once made you tremble at the thought of the future has suddenly become smaller. You may recognize that guilt no longer swallows you whole whenever you make a mistake. You may begin to feel worthy of goodness instead of constantly questioning whether you are allowed to receive it. All these signs are evidence that the chains are cracking. You stand at this crossroads not as a victim, but as one about to step into a new identity. The past is still there, but it no longer holds authority. The wounds remain part of your story, but they no longer dictate the next chapter. The people who once dismissed you still exist, but their voices no longer define your worth. Darkness does not vanish overnight, but it has already begun to retreat. recognizing that your soul no longer bows to it as it once did. Archangel Michael sees this, and his eyes shine. He knows that from the moment your soul awakens, the battlefield shifts. In the past, darkness clung to the places where you were blind. Now, as you recognize that you are loved, chosen, and protected, those footholds slip away. He continues raising his radiant sword, ready to sever any remaining bonds as you courageously walk in truth. Beloved child, this is a sacred hour. Do not rush past it. You are in the midst of liberation, where the oldest chains are cracking under the combined power of heaven's light and the response of your own heart. A chapter is closing behind you, not to erase you, but to keep the old story where it belongs in the past. Before you lies a blank page, wide and waiting, ready for words written in freedom, in peace, and in the true worth that heaven has appointed for you. And at this threshold, Archangel Michael stands with you, his shining sword in hand, confirming that the chains which once imprisoned you are splitting apart, and your soul is preparing to enter a chapter where darkness no longer holds the final word. My beloved child, when the invisible chains begin to crack open, something strange unfolds within your soul. At first, you only feel slightly lighter, as though someone has removed a portion of a burden you had carried for so long that you no longer realized how heavy it truly was. Then, from the deepest place within, a quiet stream of life begins to rise. It is not loud excitement, but a gentle warmth that flows through your inner being. Like the first ray of dawn slipping into a room long shut, you begin to notice something essential. There is a part of you that never died, only lay hidden. That part is the sacred identity I placed within you from the beginning. Through the passing years, many words, circumstances, failures, stumbles, wounds, and moments of being overlooked caused you to doubt yourself. You came to believe that you were merely the sum of what others thought, said, or did to you. You accepted the labels the world pressed onto your forehead: not good enough, not beautiful enough, not worthy, not important. Slowly, you forgot the original voice I inscribed into your soul, the voice that said, you are a being of immense worth, a soul called out of darkness to walk into light. You gradually lost respect for yourself, and with that loss, your inner strength slipped through your fingers like sand. When the light of mind begins to intensify, the first thing that awakens is not emotion, but essence. That essence is not defined by position, talent, circumstance, or past experience, but by the truth that you belong to me. From the deepest place within you, your soul begins to remember that you once knew you were loved, once believed your life carried purpose, once sensed a calling unlike anyone else's. You may have temporarily forgotten, but it never disappeared. A sacred identity cannot be stripped away. It can only be temporarily concealed beneath the weight of what you have endured. My child, I see with great clarity the moment when the strength you once lost begins to return. It does not come back with a burst of noise, but through quiet movements within your thoughts and inner senses. You begin pausing before the thoughts that used to make you belittle yourself. Instead of immediately agreeing with them, you now ask, does this truly come from him, or is it only the echo of fear and old wounds? That question, simple as it is the first sign that your soul is stepping out of a passive state and into an active one. With every moment you choose not to believe a lie, a portion of your original strength finds its way back to you. Then one day, you lift your head and realize you no longer look at life through the eyes of someone who has surrendered, but through the eyes of someone rising again. Where you once saw only barriers, you begin to see opportunities for growth. Where you once saw only wounds, you begin to see lessons. Where you once saw rejection, you begin to recognize that you were being protected from what was never meant to be yours. This is not you pretending to be strong. This is the return of a confidence that had been buried. It is a confidence that is not arrogant, not loud, not concerned with proving itself, because it is built on the awareness that I belong to the one who called me by name, and he did not make a mistake when he chose me. When true confidence returns, it brings with it two companions, discernment and clarity. Discernment helps you see the essence of things, beyond the surface of circumstances. You are no longer easily swept away by compliments or crushed by criticism. A praise does not inflate you, and a rebuke no longer has the power to collapse you. You begin asking, does this align with the direction I am being led toward? Does it nourish my soul? Does it draw me closer to the light? And when the answer is no, you now have the courage to let go, even if what you release appears attractive on the outside. Clarity arrives like a crisp breeze sweeping through a dense forest of tangled thoughts. You once struggled to understand who you were, what you wanted, or where you should go. Now, even though you cannot yet see the entire picture, you begin to feel the direction. You know you no longer fit in the same places you once did. You know your soul longs for something deeper than familiar habits. You know you can no longer remain in relationships that drain you without ever nourishing you. You know you were made to walk in a different stature, a different depth, a different brightness. This clarity is not about seeing everything, but about seeing enough to take the next step. The rebirth of the soul unfolds not only in your thoughts but also in subtle sensations you may overlook. Your heart begins to soften toward goodness instead of shrinking in fear of being hurt. Slowly, you allow yourself to believe in kindness again, not with naivety, but with maturity. You no longer need to please everyone, for you understand that not everyone is meant to journey with you into the next chapter. You no longer feel ashamed when you need rest, when you need to say no, or when you must set boundaries, because you now understand that your soul is precious and must be cared for, not used merely as a tool to satisfy others. My child, when light intensifies, it does not only shine outward, it shines from within. It illuminates the corners you once avoided, the wounds you once hid, the fears you once dared not name. But instead of making you feel ashamed, this light brings relief. You realize you can look at your past without letting it dictate your present. You can acknowledge your mistakes without confusing them with your worth. You can say, yes, I have been weak. I have wandered. I have trusted the wrong people. But that is not the whole of who I am. I am far more than what I have lived through. The rebirth of the soul is not about becoming someone else, but about returning to the truest version of who I created you to be. It is like wiping away the layers of dust that have gathered on an old mirror so the reflection can finally become clear again. You do not lose your personality, your dreams, or your emotions. You simply stop allowing them to be controlled by fear and old wounds. You begin to make choices from a place of peace rather than panic. You begin to act from trust rather than from urgency or the desperate need to prove something to anyone. And in all of this, I see within your soul a new kind of beauty, the beauty of someone who has touched the depths but refused to disappear in them, the beauty of one who has fallen yet refused to live the rest of their life bowed down, the beauty of a soul once surrounded by darkness, yet still able to protect a small spark of light, enough to summon the armies of light when the appointed time arrived. This is a sacred beauty that cannot be measured by the standards of the world. My child, when your divine identity is restored, you will feel something deep and unmistakable. You are no longer swept away by every wind of circumstance, but begin to carry your own spiritual weight. You stand firmer. You speak less, but your words carry greater depth. You love slower, but your love becomes more enduring. You choose more carefully, but your steps become more certain. You become someone whose very presence alters the atmosphere. Not because you are flawless, but because the light within you is no longer hidden as it once was. This is what I am doing in you now. I am returning to you the strength you lost, restoring your confidence, opening clarity and insight, and leading your soul through a quiet yet profound process of rebirth. You have only begun to see it, but I have already seen the whole picture, and I tell you this: your divine identity is returning to its rightful place in preparation for the great things the next chapter of your life will bring. My beloved child, the time has come for you to know a truth that heaven has kept concealed, not to hide it from you, but to protect you from the pain of knowing too soon. Archangel Michael has stepped forward, not watching from behind anymore, but standing right beside your soul, and he speaks with a solemnity so deep that every layer of the spiritual atmosphere falls silent. There was a treasure that was nearly destroyed before it ever reached your hands. This treasure is not gold, silver, or the jewels of the world. It is the pure blessing written in the divine blueprint, crafted specifically for you. It may be the opportunity that leads you into a new journey. It may be the restoration you prayed for through long nights. It may be the love that arrives at the right time. It may be the determination you once possessed but lost during years of wounds. It may be vision, creativity, ability, courage, all that has belonged to you since before you were born, but which darkness attempted to break so you would never step into your true stature. Archangel Michael saw this long ago. He said, "The moment your soul began to open to receive the blessing was also the moment darkness tried to break the pathway." Some people, whether unintentionally or intentionally, interrupted that flow through doubt, negative words, or distorted desires. Some could not bear the light that shone in you, so they released toward your soul the dark wish that you would shrink back, fail, or never advance beyond them. Though you did not hear such thoughts with your ears, your soul felt them as heaviness, stagnation, or an unexplainable dimness. But the heaviest blow did not come from others. It came from the times you lost faith in yourself. Every time you said, "I am not good enough. Maybe this is not meant for me. I do not deserve love. I will always fail." Those self-judgments became open doors through which darkness tried to touch the treasure that belonged to you. Archangel Michael says that, in those moments, darkness attempted to tear out a portion of your life story, a page that contained a special promise, a part of your destiny written exclusively for you. My child, this is the very concept he calls the page torn from one's life. Some pages are torn away in ways the eye cannot see, yet they show themselves through things such as a blessing that should have arrived but was delayed without explanation, a relationship that was the right person but the wrong time, a progress that suddenly stopped for reasons you could never understand, a dream once burning within you but slowly fading under the weight of exhaustion, or a strong part of your character being replaced by quiet doubt. And so you ask who tore those pages. It was not a single person, not an identifiable hand, but a collection of wounds, losses, misconceptions, misguided words, prolonged fear, and decisions made from the place of being hurt rather than from the place of truth. Sometimes it came from those who didn't know they were wounding you. Sometimes from those who deliberately tried to make you believe your worth was less than it truly was. And sometimes, in your most fragile moments, you yourself tore a part of your own page by abandoning a dream or stepping off the path your soul was truly destined for. But, my beloved child, the most astonishing truth is this: those torn pages were never destroyed. In the invisible realm, they never disappeared. They were simply held in the space where divine intention intersects with your free will. And in that very place, Archangel Michael has been standing guard so nothing could destroy that portion of your blessing before you entered the season prepared for it. He does not stand there empty-handed. He holds a thread of heavenly light, and with patience, born of eternity, He has been stitching your destiny back together. This restoration is nothing like careless repair. He works with the precision of a divine artisan, reassembling every fragment of your dreams into their rightful place, restoring the parts of you that were lost because they were overlooked, bringing back opportunities the darkness once tried to destroy, healing the contours of your character that had been distorted by pain, returning light to your soul and placing it back where it belongs in the story of your life. My child, there are things you believed were lost forever that in truth were simply being safeguarded by Archangel Michael so the darkness could not touch them. The blessings you thought were delayed were being rewoven to return to you more complete, more profound, far better than anything you could imagine. You once thought the delays were punishment, but they were moments of divine mending. You once thought you were abandoned, but you were hidden in protection so that what is precious would not be stolen. You once thought your opportunities had passed, but in reality, their time had not yet arrived. You once believed you were no longer worthy, but your soul was simply waiting to be healed. Archangel Michael has shown me how many times he stood between you and disasters that could have fractured your spirit. He preserved those torn pages so they would not be lost. And now, as the appointed time approaches, he is stitching them back to lead you into the flow that was always meant to be yours. My cherished child, when destiny is mended, it does not become a patched-together story. It becomes a stronger version of itself. The tear does not make it weaker, it makes it more precious. Because it survived. It was touched by angelic hands. It was restored by the love of heaven. It becomes a testament that darkness may strike, but cannot destroy, may delay, but cannot claim. What nearly slipped from your hands is returning. What darkness tried to ruin is being restored more radiant than before. Your treasure is drawing near, not in its old form, but in its fullest, brightest, perfectly timed form. My beloved child, the moment you stepped into this part, the spiritual world around you opened like a new dimension, where seasons do not shift according to calendars, but according to the breath of the soul. You are walking out of a long consuming darkness into a dawn heaven prepared for you long before you even realized how tired you had become. The subtle inner sensations you feel, the strange lightness, the peace no one gave you, the sudden clarity in places once blocked, none of these are coincidences. They are the first signs that your spiritual atmosphere is shifting, leaving the shadows and moving toward light. Not every change can be seen with the eyes, but your soul, far more sensitive than you know, is clearly sensing the currents in motion. It is like a field after a long rain beginning to warm under the rising sun, not because the sun is visible yet, but because the earth itself has started to change. I want you to understand this throughout the past dark season. You never lost your strength. You were merely covered by layers of doubt, wounding, and prolonged waiting. You felt stuck, as though every step was weighed down, as though every effort vanished into silence. But in reality, you were not weakening. You were being prepared. When heaven leads a soul into darkness, it is never for destruction but for reshaping. The darkness clung to you not because you were small, but because it knew that if you made it through that season, you would rise into a strength it could never reach again. It held tight because it knew the moment you emerged would define the course of your entire path. But my child, that moment, the moment you step out of the shadows, is unfolding right now. In the very breath you are taking, in the listening of your heart, and in the opening of your soul to the light touching your deepest places. This is a sacred truth that very few souls on earth ever recognize. There is a moment when the soul resonates with the light. It is the moment when what was once covered begins to come alive. When your intuition outshines your reasoning. When your heart receives messages your mind has not yet had time to interpret. That moment is not loud. It unfolds like a long broken cord being repaired, like an underground stream finally being released, like a melody that had been silent suddenly becoming clear again. You do not create that moment. You simply respond to it because your soul was designed from the beginning to recognize the light. Like an instrument untouched for years, the first tones may sound uneven, faint, or trembling when the light touches it. But then each string begins to vibrate, each breath begins to harmonize, and each thought becomes aligned with the call that comes from heaven. It is in that moment of resonance that you begin to reconnect with the divine blueprint of your life. There are people who live their whole lives without ever encountering this moment. They continue walking without knowing they are lost. They continue choosing without realizing they can no longer hear the voice of their own soul. But you are different, because you have walked through so many trials. Your soul has become sensitive, perceptive, and quick to recognize even the slightest change. As light as a passing breeze, when the light touches you, you know, you do not need anyone to tell you. You do not need anyone to explain. You do not need proof. You simply know in a way that is deep, quiet, and unwavering that you are drawing near to what has always belonged to you. When the divine blueprint is reconnected, you begin to feel as though the previously scattered pieces of your life suddenly fall into place. You remember who you were before pain blurred that image. You remember the dreams that were not limited by fear. You remember the inner voice that once told you that you were born to do something meaningful. You remember the strength you once carried before your heart was wounded. You remember that you once believed in the future, once knew you were made of light, once lived with a confidence that did not come from praise, but from the awareness that you belonged to the one who created you. This remembering is not an illusion. It is the rebirth of your very soul. It is also the moment when you understand this declaration more deeply than ever before. I will restore to you the years that were devoured. Joel 2:5. Not a few days, not a handful of scattered moments. Years you thought were lost forever, wasted, destroyed by the enemy. Heaven does not merely return what you lost. Heaven returns it fuller, richer, more beautiful, more perfect. A spiritual shifting of seasons is not a miracle that erases the past, but a process that renders the past incapable of binding you any longer. It does not turn you into someone else. It leads you back to the truest version of who you have always been before fear clung to you, before wounds redirected you, before darkness veiled your light. You begin to see life with different eyes, clearer, wider, deeper. You see who belongs in your new chapter and who was only meant to teach you something in the previous one. You see what nourishes your soul and what drains it. You see when you must move forward and when you must let go. These are the signs of a soul awakened. In this transition of seasons, Archangel Michael stands at the threshold of the spiritual realm, guarding so that nothing belonging to the shadows enters the new territory you are stepping into. He does not allow old ties to bind you anymore. He does not allow old words to make you falter. He does not allow old fears to dim your inner light. He stands there like a pillar of radiance in the night, causing every wrong path to become invisible to you, so that only the right one remains, even if you cannot see the whole journey yet. Only a single step, but one step in the right direction is enough to change the entire path ahead. My child, a new season is not merely the departure from the old. It is the entrance into what has been prepared for you long before you ever cried out for it. It is a season of restoration, of clarity, of radiance, of doors opening as gently as breath, of long-delayed blessings returning at exactly the right time. This is the season in which what belongs to you no longer runs away, it runs toward you. This is the season in which destiny is no longer torn from its pages, it is sewn back together with light. This is the season in which your soul no longer searches blindly, it is guided. My beloved child, as a new season begins to unfold before your eyes. I want you to understand something deeply important. The blessing drawing near to you is in an extremely delicate state. It is not because it is weak or lacking in power, but because this moment resembles the instant when a tender sprout first breaks through the soil after a long winter. A single careless step or a moment of inattention could crush that sprout before it grows into a tree. Your blessing is the same. It has stepped out of the unseen realm and is moving toward you. It has passed through many layers of spiritual battle, has been preserved, mended, and guarded from hands that sought to destroy it. Yet for it to truly become part of your life, for it to take root deeply in your reality, your own soul must collaborate with it. This is not the time to relax. It is the time to become profoundly aware that every choice, every glance, every thought you hold is touching something great that is drawing near. The blessing is in a fragile state not because it lacks strength, but because the space around it is being rearranged, like a room being prepared to receive an honored guest. When things within you begin to shift, old beliefs dismantled, invisible cords severed, wounds brought into the light to be healed, the entire inner structure of your being begins to move. In moments like these, the soul is easily swayed. You may become more sensitive, more affected by noise around you, more easily pulled between staying the course and giving up. That is why, though the blessing is very near, it can still feel as though it might slip from your hands with just a moment of distraction. It is not because I wish to test you to exhaustion, but because a true blessing cannot anchor itself in a heart that has not learned how to hold peace, how to listen, or how to stay steady. It requires solid ground. It requires a heart that has learned to guard what is its own without being shaken by every passing wind. Here, the element of free will becomes profoundly significant. I can open the path. I can send angels. I can shift circumstances in your favor. But I do not walk in your place. I do not seize your soul like a tyrant. I invite, yet always leave room for you to choose. Archangel Michael may set his radiant sword before you, may stand between you and disaster, may restore the torn pages of destiny, but he will not force you to believe, to move, or to receive. Your free will is the gift I gave and have never taken back. This means that the blessing approaching you depends not only on my desire to give it, but also on your willingness to open your heart, to focus, to respond, and to step into it. Without focus, the blessing may arrive and depart without your soul recognizing it. Without cooperation, you may walk back to an old path even when a new door has been opened. The focus I speak of is not tension, nor is it obsessively thinking about your blessing as if it might disappear. The focus I speak of is a posture of the spirit, choosing to direct your heart toward light instead of drifting into darkness, choosing to believe that something good is coming, even when your eyes have yet to see it, choosing to keep peace on days when everything seems quiet, choosing to withdraw your energy from what does not belong to you, meaningless arguments, comparisons that exhaust your soul, old memories that pull you back to places you have already left. The more you focus, the more you create a clean inner space where the blessing can descend without colliding against the unrefined edges of fear and doubt. I want you to picture this. The blessing approaching you is like a clear droplet of dew resting at the tip of a blade of grass at dawn. It is beautiful, real, and reflective of light. Yet, just one careless touch could cause it to burst and vanish, not because it lacks worth, but because it must be touched with gentleness and awareness. The blessing meant for you is the same. In this moment, your words, your attitude, and the seemingly small choices that reveal the direction of your heart, these are the touches that determine everything. If you touch the blessing with doubt, impatience, discouragement, or comparison, the blessing still belongs to you. but you will struggle to recognize it when it comes in a form humbler than you expected. But if you touch it with gratitude, trust, patience, and a willingness to change, the blessing will grow, strengthen, and take root in your life in a way nothing will be able to uproot. In the midst of this entire process, there is one image I want to carve deeply into your soul, a decisive breath. There are moments in life when a single breath can become the line that divides staying from giving up, peace from panic, faith from doubt, rising from collapsing. When a trial draws near, your instinct wants to react immediately, wanting to protect, defend, explain, or cling to something solid. But if in that very moment you grant yourself the privilege of one breath, one pause, 1 second of openness, one quiet space to listen, then, within that breath, heaven may whisper, Archangel Michael may shift something, and your blessing may find a gentler way to enter. A decisive breath is when, instead of speaking bitterness, you choose silence and surrender. Instead of withdrawing from the journey, you inhale deeply and take one more step. Instead of shutting your heart out of fear of being wounded, you open it just a little more to let the light in. Instead of seeing everything through the lens of old patterns, you take a deep breath and say, Lord, let me see this through your light. Just one such breath is enough to redirect the energy within you from fear to trust, from resistance to cooperation. And when the energy inside you changes course, the blessing that is approaching, still fragile in its early form, becomes wrapped in a steadier field of peace, no longer as easily broken as before. My child, do not underestimate moments that seem small and insignificant. Sometimes an entire season of life is determined by how you respond in only a few seconds. One sentence can close a door, but another can open a new pathway. One decision to withdraw may send you into more circles, but one decision to stand firm can lead you straight into the blessing that has been waiting for you. The difference does not lie in your strength, but in the posture of your heart when it faces moments of high pressure. And in those very moments, I call you, take a deep breath in me. Let your soul remember that you are not alone. Let Archangel Michael stand beside you, and then choose to walk toward the light. Your blessing is coming, but it will not enter your life with thunderous noise. It will arrive like a breeze, like a ray of light, like a door that suddenly feels lighter when your hand touches its handle. It will appear through encounters that seem coincidental, in quiet confirmations, in strange alignments that only your soul will recognize as answers. Therefore, keep your heart awake. Treasure every breath, every thought, every response. For in this fragile moment between dawn and dusk, the way you respond will determine whether the blessing merely passes by or stays and becomes a living part of your story. My beloved child, there are days that pass like any other, quiet, pale, leaving no mark upon memory. But there are also days heaven marks as points of intersection, where spiritual seasons collide, where what has long waited suddenly meets what has just begun to move. The day you are living now is one of those days. Outwardly, it may look no different from a normal day, the same rhythm, the same familiar faces, the same tasks you have grown accustomed to. But deep in the unseen realm, in the dimension the human eye cannot measure, the atmosphere around you is thickening in a way that is anything but ordinary. It is heavier, deeper, carrying a vibration that only a sensitive soul can feel, the collision between a long season of waiting and a season of change approaching. Throughout your recent journey, you have lived in a season of waiting so long that at times you believed it would never end. It has been a season of prayers unanswered in the way you longed for, of unopened doors, of promises suspended in the air, of dreams you poured your whole heart into but had to tuck away because circumstances did not allow them to flourish. You have walked through days when hope and disappointment alternated, through nights where your heart hovered between perseverance and surrender. There were moments when you thought, perhaps I misunderstood, perhaps what was meant for me is not as great as I once felt. Yet deep within, there remained a stubborn spark that refused to die. That spark kept you from turning away, kept you walking, kept you waiting, even when your mind wanted to give up. That season of waiting, exhausting as it was, carved depth into your heart, enlarged your capacity, and forged within you a resilience you never imagined you could possess. And then, at a precise moment on the divine timeline, everything that had been delayed, everything that seemed suspended, begins to move all at once. What you did not see is this in the heavens. Your old prayers never fell to the ground and vanished. They were gathered like drops of water waiting to reach fullness so they could become rain. Each time you persevered in silence, another drop was added. Each time you chose faith instead of bitterness, another drop was added. Each time you refused to retreat simply because you were tired, the spiritual sky grew heavier, as though preparing for an irreversible outpouring. You could not see this process, so you believed you were standing still, but nothing was still. The season of waiting was always moving, only its movement was underground. In the quiet, in the deep. At a certain point, every delay gathers into a single threshold, much like a river held back by a dam for many years, where the water keeps rising until it can no longer be contained. Today is the day the water reaches that brink. In the spiritual realm, there is a faint but decisive crack, formed by the pressure of long-suppressed dreams, persistent prayers, silent tears, and every year you refuse to give up, all converging into a force strong enough to break the invisible barrier that once held your blessing on the other side. You may not perceive it clearly through your physical senses, but your soul is deeply attuned to it. You may label it with simple phrases like a strange feeling, unsettled but peaceful, or a nervousness without cause. Yet what you are actually sensing is the tremor of a breakthrough moment when a new season collides with the old one in your life. This collision is not a chaotic clash. It is like the moment a great ancient gate is pushed open after years of being sealed shut. When the hinges have rusted, the door does not swing open quietly. It groans. It shudders, and layers of dust fall away. Those groans, those tremors, those drifting particles of dust are the changes occurring within you, old patterns being loosened, former ways of thinking no longer fitting, past relationships revealing their true nature, and familiar habits becoming difficult to maintain. You may find yourself more sensitive to what is wrong, more drawn to what is right, more uncomfortable with settling for anything less than what truly belongs to you. These are clear signs that your soul is no longer willing to remain in the stagnant season of waiting. It is being pulled toward a season of irreversible change. At this intersection, Archangel Michael stands like a guardian of the gate, not merely observing but actively engaged. He stands precisely where the two seasons meet, like a sentry who understands the significance of this moment. On one side of him lie your years of waiting, your wounds, your disappointments, and the promises that seem delayed. On the other side lie the things that are approaching, new opportunities, purified connections, restored blessings, and chapters beginning to form. He places his hand on the gate, as if to measure the rhythm of your soul's movement. He does not open it prematurely, lest you be overwhelmed, nor does he keep it shut for too long, lest you miss the appointed time. He synchronizes with the beat of your spirit, waiting for the moment when you are calm enough not to break what you are about to receive, clear-minded enough not to let fear take over, and focused enough not to turn back. In his role as gatekeeper, Archangel Michael also stands between you and the forces that attempt to exploit this crossing point to create chaos. For the moment of breakthrough is also the moment of greatest vulnerability. When two seasons collide, the darkness understands that if it does not act now, it will lose its access to your life for a very long time. So it tries to send you distorted signals, making you question your worth once more, making you feel so exhausted you want to quit, making you believe nothing is changing, or pulling you back toward the familiar weariness of the past. But Michael sees it all. He raises his radiant sword to cut through those shadows, slashing apart the ropes that are trying to drag your soul back to the old shore just as you are about to step onto the new one. My child, I want you to understand that this day, not merely as a date in time, but as a point of convergence, is a profound gift heaven has chosen for you. Every delay was not meaningless. It built the weight needed to push the gate open. Every tear was not wasted. It became part of the stream that formed the breakthrough point. Every moment you endured in silent patience, every time you chose love despite being hurt, every time you kept doing what was right even without seeing results, all of it has been gathered together. And today it collides with heaven's appointed time for you. Do not let your natural eyes deceive you into thinking that this is just an ordinary day. In the heavenly realms, it is anything but ordinary. It is recorded as a day when the season of waiting and the season of transformation touch one another. A marker in time when your soul no longer stands on the side of delay, but is being gradually carried toward the side of divine movement. I invite you to step into this day with deep awareness, with gratitude, and with spiritual alertness. Recognize that every thought you choose, every word you speak, and every response you give in this moment carries weight, for they echo into the very center of this intersection, either strengthening the opening of the door or unintentionally slowing it down. Let your soul stand with Archangel Michael at this crossing, not passively, but in divine cooperation. Tell yourself, I have walked through the days of waiting, and now I allow myself to enter the days of transition. Look back at the former season with gratitude for what it taught you, but do not continue to live inside it. Look forward not with anxious anticipation, but with faith that if heaven has held the door until now, heaven will also hold your hand as you step through it. And remember, in the intense collision between waiting and change, you do not stand alone. There is one who watches you with love, and there is Archangel Michael standing at that very threshold, his hand resting upon the door, ready to open it the moment your soul says yes to the new season that is approaching. My beloved child, in this newly opened spiritual threshold, there is a great movement unfolding behind the invisible veil, a movement that, if your soul listens deeply enough, you will sense as a subtle trembling in the atmosphere. It is not a physical sound, but the shifting of power, the rearranging of angelic formations within the spiritual battle that concerns your life. There are moments when heaven merely observes, but there are also moments when heaven acts, and this is one of those rare moments when the angels change positions and gather closer to you. Like elite warriors, re-establishing their protective lines after receiving a signal from Archangel Michael that you have entered a critical phase of your journey. There are things you cannot see with your physical eyes, yet a perceptive soul will feel them as a sudden shift of wind or an unusual silence settling in the heart. That is the moment when the angels move from a defensive stance into a covering stance, no longer standing at a distance to guard, but advancing so near that your spiritual breath seems to blend with theirs. Before now, they may have stood in wide formation to block incoming attacks from afar, but now they have closed in around you, forming a circle of light. The reason is simple: this moment is no longer merely a season of healing or preparation. It is the moment when power begins to operate in a new direction. I want you to understand this deeply. When a soul crosses through layers of delay, breaks free from invisible ties, and steps into the light of awakening, the protective structure around that soul must also change. Just as a battlefield is recalibrated before a major advance, under the command of Archangel Michael, the angels are repositioning themselves not to defend against the old, but to push back every force that is still trying to cling, grasp, or pull you back toward a place where you no longer belong. This reconfiguration is so powerful that darkness senses it before you do. That is why, at times, you may see old patterns suddenly rising again, like a final test or the echo of a dying chapter. But do not fear, my child. When the old rises to the surface, it is a sign that the light is drawing near. This is the moment when what once targeted you begins to turn away. In the spiritual realm, all energies operate under the law of returning to origin, meaning that any energy sent in the wrong direction cannot remain within the space of a soul protected by light. When negative forces, curses, envy, deceit, or harmful intentions realize that your energetic field is no longer a place they can anchor themselves, they must return to their source by the natural order, not because you seek revenge, nor because you curse, but simply because what does not belong to you cannot remain with you. As your light increases, all darkness will find your frequency unbearable and must withdraw. And this withdrawal does not occur silently. It happens through the reversing of the very pathways those energies once used against you. Some who once spoke falsely about you will now be confronted with the truth they avoided. Some who tried to diminish your light will now have to face the reflection of their own actions. Words that once made you hesitate will no longer hold a place in your mind. Energies that once drained you will return to the place they originated, not for retaliation, but to teach their source the spiritual consequence of what they released. This reversal is one of the mysterious yet perfectly just operations of the heavenly realm when a soul is guarded by light and truth. Anything that does not belong to that light will inevitably be sent back to where it came from. I know there are moments when you ask yourself, why do I have to endure so much injustice? You think the darkness has won battles you never understood. You think words and actions from others have tangled the years of your life. You think you have been shaped too deeply by wounds you did not cause. Yet you do not know that in the unseen realm, Archangel Michael has stood up many times, raising his radiant sword to block those very things, refusing to let them continue tearing pages from your destiny. And now, as you step into a new phase, he is not only blocking but redirecting. This redirection is nothing like retaliation. It is the correction of heavenly justice. What came through the wrong path will be guided back to the right one. What was aimed at you will return to the one who released it. What tried to suffocate your light will circling back to expose the darkness within them. This happens not for you to feel pain or satisfaction, but for you to see that you have never had to protect yourself alone. Heaven never permitted you to suffer senseless blows. And now, this reversal unfolds as a confirmation that heaven sees, heaven knows, and heaven acts. On a deeper level, this reversal carries an even greater meaning. It restores to you what the darkness once tried to steal. The years that were delayed will be returned with steps that advance faster than you expect. Opportunities that seem to have been blocked will return in clearer and more powerful forms. Relationships that once broke under misunderstanding or hurt will be healed in ways you could not have imagined. Above all, the reversal will create a path for what truly belongs to you to come more easily, no longer hindered by invisible forces that once created resistance. As the darkness is driven away, you will find yourself breathing deeper, thinking clearer, feeling lighter, and making decisions with greater certainty. These are signs that the reinstatement of protection is at work. My child, The most wondrous part of this season is that the angels are moving like living streams of light. They do not stand still like monuments. They shift according to the spiritual needs of your journey. When you step into new ground, they go before you to clear the way. When you grow weary, they walk beside you to uphold you. When unseen attacks arise, they stand behind you to guard your back. When you lose direction because of emotion, they stand above you to shine a guiding light. This is what most people never realize when a soul enters a new season. The angels must also shift their positions to ensure that soul enters its destiny safely. Archangel Michael stands at the center of all these movements. He does not merely command, he anchors the entire field of energy. He maintains stability amid forces that are shifting. He is the one who discerns when to open a door and when to close paths that are not meant for you. He signals the angels to surround you when you approach pivotal points. He determines the exact moment when your blessings are to be released into your atmosphere according to heavenly timing. And my beloved child, in this very moment, as you read these words, the transition of power is reaching its peak. The things that once targeted you are losing their aim. The forces that once sought to block your path are weakening. The shadows that once frightened you are dissolving like mist under sunlight. The angels no longer stand at a distance. They draw near as if to say, "Do not fear. Everything is turned." And in the center of all these movements, Archangel Michael stands tall, his sword shining in his hand, his gaze fixed on your future. With a single certainty, you are no longer standing in a zone of attack, but in a territory of protection. My beloved, there are rare moments in the heavenly realms when time no longer flows in its usual rhythm, but pauses like a still surface, allowing the angels to gaze into what has not yet been revealed. And in such a moment, Archangel Michael saw your future, a vision so intense it shook the spiritual dimension, not through ordinary sight, nor by common light, but through the primal radiance of truth, the kind that appears only when a destiny is about to enter its most defined stage. He saw your life in a version even you cannot yet imagine, a version so luminous that every dark force that once clung to you was driven far into the distance, swept from the sky like dust in a powerful wind. The image is not a static painting, it is a living movement. Michael sees you standing in a space no longer covered by the dark remnants of the past. The light surrounding you is not the light of material achievement, nor the glow that comes from human praise. It is the kind of light that appears only when a soul has walked through a land of brokenness, endured the pressure of darkness, shed tears in solitude, yet still preserved a flame that never went out. Over time, that flame became a torch, and in his vision, you are holding that torch in your hand, not to illuminate the way for yourself alone, but to shine it for those who are also feeling their way through the dark, just as you once did. The Archangel Michael sees a version of you that is strong in a way no words can fully describe, not a strength that is emotionless or unbothered, but a strength that nothing can take your peace away from, a strength that comes from knowing who you are, a strength that understands that every fracture once served as the foundation for restoration. In that version, your heart no longer tightens because of old wounds. Your mind is no longer guided by doubt, and your soul no longer carries the invisible burdens that once made you think you could not keep going. None of these changes appeared by accident. They came from heaven's intervention, from the protection of angels, and from those nights when you stood in the darkness but still chose to walk toward the light. What makes Michael weep is not that such a future is fragile or easily lost, but that it is too beautiful, too powerful, too radiant compared to what you once believed you deserved. He sees the rising of a soul heaven has cherished for so long, a soul once wounded by human affection, yet never defeated by destiny. He sees you standing in a new realm where every cord that once bound you has been cut, where the voice within you becomes clear, where your heart is bold yet tender, strong yet deeply merciful. He sees someone who no longer steps back because of fear, but moves forward because the calling inside has become impossible to silence. You may not realize it, but there is a law of the universe when a soul is healed. It transforms not only itself, but also those who pass through its life. And that is exactly what Michael sees. You of the future are not only stronger, you become an anchor for others, not by dominance, but by presence, not through preaching, but through energy. You become someone in whose company others feel safe. You become someone whose steadiness helps others rise. You become someone whose very appearance pushes back the darkness in a room. In that moment, the universe responds to you with a quiet reverence, not a reverence born from power, but from the depth your soul has attained. No one becomes deep without first going through the abyss. No one becomes light without first learning how to face the dark. And you, in Michael's vision, are living proof that sorrow is not the end of the story. Sorrow is merely the opening line of a new chapter. My beloved child, the reason Michael weeps is because he knows how much harder you had to fight compared to others to stand where you stand. He knows of the nights you never spoke about, but your soul cried out and he heard. He knows of the fractures that seemed impossible to cross, yet you continued. He knows you gave love even when others carried wounds. He knows you spent many seasons alone, yet still preserved your heart. And when he sees the future, where every loss is recompensed, every tear becomes strength, every silence becomes the foundation of wisdom, he can no longer hold back his sacred tears. It is not because he is weak, but because in a single glance, he sees the entire story of your life, from the moment you fell to the moment you rose, from the moment you lost to the moment you were restored, from the moment you were misunderstood to the moment your truth shone. He weeps because he sees that you have already won, even though you yourself do not yet realize it. Michael also sees what you are not yet brave enough to look at, that the light you carry is not borrowed light, but light placed upon your life from the beginning, a light that darkness tried to dim but could never extinguish, a light that no wound in your heart could take away, because it does not live in your physical heart but at the root of your soul. And in the instant the universe answers that soul, the light rises like dawn after a long winter, spreading across all the realms you are about to enter. My child, the future Michael sees is not merely a future of prosperity, it is the maturity of your soul. No one can take that from you. No one can dim it from the story of your life. And that is why he weeps, because he sees that what you are walking toward is worthy of every tear you shed, every moment of waiting, every time you wanted to give up but did not. My beloved child, there are signals that do not rise from the present moment, nor from thought or memory, but from a place far beyond, from the future your soul has already stepped into long before your mind becomes aware of it. These signals are not a voice, nor a clear image. They are a subtle vibration that slips into the deepest layers of your consciousness. It is like a soft breeze no one can see, yet it makes the flame lean in a certain direction, like the distant sound of waves that only those who know how to listen can distinguish, even without the ocean before their eyes. Your intuition is the echo sent back from the future, the way the heavens announce that something is drawing near, that a door is about to open, that the story you carry is preparing to turn a new page. There are moments when you wonder why you suddenly feel that something is happening, even though no visible sign appears. You only know that your heartbeat changes, your breath deepens, and your mind becomes more sensitive to the faintest shifts in the atmosphere. That is not imagination, it is your soul responding to the signal of the future it has already been destined to enter. The soul always goes ahead of the mind. It sees first, hears first, receives first. And when the soul receives that signal, you sense a pull, a quiet calling towards something you cannot yet name. This is how heaven adjusts your steps without needing to speak a single word. The Archangel Michael has proclaimed many times, the soul recognizes what belongs to it long before the mind does. For the soul is not bound by time, not veiled by fear, and not chained to the memories of the past. The soul knows its path, knows its promise, knows its blessing even when the outer self is still uncertain and hesitating before its choices, and the signals you feel unexpected peace, an unnamed stirring, a small spark of light rising within are confirmations that your future is approaching you with every passing second. There are days when you ask yourself, why do I keep feeling that something good is about to happen? You see nothing concrete. Yet your soul whispers relentlessly of something drawing near. This happens because your soul has already seen the seed of blessing beginning to bloom, while your mind is still trying to reason, still measuring everything through earthly logic. But my child, the soul does not operate by logic. The soul operates by light, and light never loses its way. There is one principle you must understand. Blessings do not arrive late. Blessings arrive in their season. You think they come slowly because you are measuring them from your perspective, but heaven measures from the realm of eternity. There are blessings which, if granted too soon, you would not yet have the strength to hold. There are opportunities which, if opened prematurely, you would step into with trembling feet and an unripe heart. There are connections which, if formed at the wrong time, would only deepen each other's wounds. Heaven never desires for good things to become burdens. Therefore, blessings come only when the heart is mature, when the soul is clear, and when the path has been cleared of every invisible attacker. In many cases, delay is not a test, it is protection. There are days you think you are being underestimated, when in truth, heaven is shielding you from injury. There are opportunities you believe you have lost, when in fact they are being held in reserve until you can enter them with a steadier posture. There are doors that close abruptly before you, causing you heartbreak, yet they are shielding you from a disaster you cannot see. Archangel Michael stands at the intersection of these doors, knowing exactly when to block, when to open, and when to guard with silence as an invisible shield. Your intuition is the way heaven sends signals that a door is about to open. You do not need to see the door, you only need to feel the shift inside your own heart. The days before a blessing arrives often carry a strange energy. You feel as though your inner world is being rearranged. You feel lighter, you release things more easily. You long for what is right rather than what is easy. This is your soul preparing itself for a new season. And long before a blessing appears, the soul always knows, just as a sprouting seed knows spring is coming, before humans ever feel the warmth. My child, your future has sent its signal back to you. The sudden emotions within you: peace when nothing is certain yet, strength when nothing is guaranteed, hope when no path is visible. None of these are illusions. They are signs that your soul is already standing at the threshold of what has been appointed for you. And such signals only appear when the blessing is close enough to touch your atmosphere. When the angels draw close enough to pour their light into your heart. One of the reasons blessings arrive in the right season is that heaven never sends anything to a soul that is not yet ready to hold it. A blessing is not only a gift, it is also a responsibility. Goodness comes only when you have learned how not to lose yourself in receiving it. If a blessing arrives while you are still governed by fear, you will cling to it with anxiety. If a blessing comes while your heart is still full of wounds, you will doubt the good. If a blessing reaches you at a time when you do not yet know your own worth, you will let others define its value for you. That is why heaven waits. Heaven watches. Heaven is patient. Heaven waits until your heart is wide enough, bright enough, mature enough to embrace what has always belonged to you. Archangel Michael once said, "It is not the blessing that arrives late. It is you who arrives at the right time for the blessing." There is a profound difference in that statement. For in the heavenly realms, Everything intended for you has been prepared long before you become aware of it. But you must walk through seasons of darkness to learn strength. You must pass through seasons of waiting to learn perseverance. You must endure seasons of silence to learn how to listen. And when your soul has opened, stabilized, expanded, and learned how to love yourself and love the light, then everything that was once delayed will find its way to you, not by your chasing, not by your striving, not by your fear. My child, the signal you have felt stirring within you recently is the first vibration of a new season. You cannot explain it with logic, for the future does not speak in logic, the future speaks in light. All you need is to trust that your soul will always know the way, that blessings never lose their direction, and that every good thing is drawing near to you according to heaven's rhythm, slow, precise, and utterly without error. My beloved, there are moments in the spiritual journey when your soul begins to open in ways your mind has not yet caught up to. It is when you feel a gentle warmth moving along the inside of you, like an underground stream finding its course, or when an unexplainable peace settles upon your heart like a thin blanket laid over a cold night. These sensations do not come from external circumstances, from comforting words, or from the shifting of situations. They come from another movement, the movement of your personal energy being unlocked after a long period of being constricted by unseen forces around you. When this inner reservoir begins to awaken, your soul feels a warmth like heaven's breath touching your heart, and your mind feels a quietness like a space finally being cleared of years of accumulated noise. The miracle is that this warmth does not expand from the outside inward, but from the deepest point of the soul outward. It is like a beam of light radiating from the center into the far edges of your life. That light has always been within you from the beginning, but because of losses, wounds, dismissive words, misaligned connections, and dark seasons, it had once been obscured, covered beneath the ashes of sorrow. Now that the ashes are falling away, that light rises with strength. The true light which gives light to everyone. John 1:9. What you feel now is that very light vibrating from within your soul. It is not light given by another, but the light that already belongs to you, ignited from the place where heaven touches the soul. When personal energy becomes unlocked, three very distinct things happen, though only those who are truly awakened will recognize them. First, the soul becomes lighter, as if shedding hundreds of layers of dust that had gathered upon it. Second, your mind stops resisting what is right. You no longer have to battle yourself in order to choose the light. And third, a sense of serenity, not superficial but deeply rooted, emerges as the sign that you have stepped out of the vibration of the old and entered a new frequency. This inner peace is the voice of the universe announcing that you are no longer inside the chaotic field of energy, but have moved into a field of order, of clarity, a field where destiny can connect with you without obstruction. Many believe that the soul feels at peace when everything outside is calm, but the opposite is the true spiritual law. Peace comes first, and circumstances transform afterward. When the soul has found its inner anchor, the external events begin to arrange themselves according to heaven's order. When personal energy rises, the things that once weighed you down can no longer hold your soul captive. And in that very moment, you will feel a warm current spreading through you as if an invisible door has been opened and new wind has rushed in. That is the sign that destiny has drawn near. O child, the warmth and peace you are feeling are not small signs. They are heaven's message telling you that you have come close to the dividing line between the old season and the new. Whenever your heart grows quiet, even though your circumstances have not changed, that stillness is not the reassurance of the mind, but the soul, recognizing what belongs to it before the mind can understand. The mind demands evidence. The soul needs only truth, and truth always precedes manifestation. The unlocking of personal energy also means that the things that once exhausted you no longer have authority over you. The souls who used to drain your energy will quietly drift away. The relationships that once made your heart race with anxiety will fall into stillness. The thoughts that once weighed heavily on your mind will dissolve like mist in the sunlight. This does not happen because the external world has shifted, but because you have. When your energy level rises, everything that does not match your frequency will naturally fall out of your life without requiring confrontation. This is a sacred law. When light increases, darkness must retreat. More importantly, when personal energy is unlocked, destiny begins to follow you in a very unmistakable way. This is why, in this phase of your journey, you may sense that something is approaching, even if you cannot identify what it is. That feeling is like hearing footsteps in a silent hallway. You do not see the person, but you know they are coming. Destiny moves in the same manner. When a blessing is close enough to enter your atmosphere, the soul recognizes it first, and the peace you feel is the message that you are heading in the right direction, that you are ready to receive what corresponds to your new frequency. Another wonder of this awakening is that you begin to see that the things you once feared were only shadows cast by the past. You realize you are far stronger than you ever imagined. You stand straighter, see clearer, hear more distinctly the voice of your own being. You know what belongs to you and what does not. You know you no longer have to beg or cling to anything. You need only walk in the light of your own essence, and the universe will arrange the rest. Beloved child, the unlocking of personal energy is not the result of luck or coincidence. It is the harvest of all the seasons through which you patiently endured, of every time you rose when you thought you had no strength left, of every moment you chose love instead of resentment, hope instead of fear. The universe responds only when the soul has matured, and today, through the warmth you feel, through the spreading peace, through the new clarity within you, heaven is telling you you have ripened enough to step into your destiny. Do not dismiss that peace. It is the strongest sign that heaven has agreed to open the path. It is the trace of the true light that John spoke of, the light that shines not to decorate a life, but to guide a soul toward the most beautiful part of its journey. Walk forward with confidence, for every signal you are sensing is heaven's answer, whispering the season of open doors has come. My beloved child, your story has never been only your own. Destiny never operates in isolation. It intertwines souls with threads so delicate they appear disconnected. Yet they always follow a sacred order. If until now you have only seen your half of the story, your battles, your shadows, your twists and turns, your seasons of waiting, then now I want to show you the other half. Someone else, somewhere along their own life path, is also being gently moved toward you. Not by coincidence, not by fleeting emotion, but because a larger plan is nearing completion, and the thread connecting your two souls is being drawn taut again by the one who wove it from the beginning. There was a moment when that person stood near the light you carried but did not recognize it. They saw you, but only with natural eyes. They lacked the courage or the maturity to perceive your sacred worth. They may have walked away, grown silent, avoided you, chosen a different direction, or allowed fear, pride, wounds, or their own expectations to cloud their sight. You carried the ache of being left behind. Yet you did not know that from that very moment forward, they entered a different season, a season of emptiness in which heaven used silence as a form of purification. O child, silence is never an empty void. For that soul, your absence, the distance between you, the days without words, all became the space into which light could shine upon the layers they had never dared to face. When you were no longer there to soothe their anxieties, to fill their inner voids, the noise they once used to distract themselves began to lose its power. Silence became an invisible furnace where each thought, each choice, each fracture in their heart was slowly revealed. They began to understand what they had overlooked, whom they had lost, and how they had undervalued a soul of such depth. There were moments when that person, too, found themselves in the confusion you once knew so well, bewildered by their own decisions, exhausted by things they thought were right but discovered to be hollow, adrift among shallow connections that could not touch their soul. And while their outer life may have appeared perfectly normal, cracks began to form within. These cracks were not meant to destroy, but to let the light in. Through them, they began to hear more clearly the true voice inside, the voice they had silenced when everything around them was still loud. Silence became the lesson that quieted all external noise, so that the calling within could finally echo back into their awareness. One day, just like you, they too experience a quiet awakening, not because of a sermon they heard or advice someone offered, but because the long, persistent emptiness inside them can no longer be filled by anything external. They begin to remember their conversations with you, the sense of peace or clarity you once brought them, though at the time they lacked the awareness to cherish it. They recall a glance, a sentence, a fleeting moment through which their soul was stirred. What they once dismissed as trivial now becomes essential fragments of understanding. They realize that there is something about you that differs from others, not in appearance, but in depth, in light, in a sincerity they rarely encounter in life. From that realization, their heart begins to be struck with unusual intensity. They are no longer at ease when thoughts of you arise not out of obsession or unhealthy attachment, but because their soul begins to recognize the truth. Each time your name surfaces in their mind, something tightens in their chest, a shade of regret, a faint shame, a quiet longing to try again. They find no comfort in their old choices. What once filled them with pride now looks hollow. Bonds they once believed were right suddenly feel heavy. With each comparison, they sense the absence of something they only felt when they were near you: truth, purity, life. On a deeper level, Archangel Michael is at work. He is not only covering you but also touching their path. He uses their experiences, the collisions, the turning points, even their personal failures to shape them, to awaken them, to crack open the hardened shell they had built out of old wounds. Each time they face that strange emptiness, despite being surrounded by everything they thought they wanted, it is his hand peeling away their disguises. Each time they remember you with an inexplicable ache, it is him showing them the distance between what they chose and what their soul actually needs. My child, I want you to understand this. If they return, their return will not be an accident, but the result of destiny reaching its appointed ripening. It will not be a weak retreat, but a courageous act from a soul that has traveled full circle, only to realize it once stood in the right place but turned away. Destiny forces no one, but it never stops sending signals. And when those signals grow strong enough, when pride has thinned, when their heart has softened, they will be gently nudged toward you, like a leaf falling perfectly into the river that was meant for it from the beginning. Yet I also want you to see a deeper principle. When a soul steps into its new season, its energy changes, and that change radiates outward. When you are healed, when you rise, when you walk in your divine identity, you do not transform only your own life, you unknowingly create a new field of influence around you, touching those who were once connected to you at a soul-deep level. Just as a lit torch reveals faces hidden in the dark, the rising of your spirit forces connected souls to confront themselves. They can no longer sleep through their own story, for the light you carry, though not directed at them, still reaches them and touches the places they tried hardest to hide. For this reason, any return, if it happens, will always be tied to a measure of awakening within them. It will no longer be a return born of loneliness, lack, or the desire to fill a void. It will be the return of someone who has come to understand the value of the soul, both theirs and yours. They may not articulate it in perfect words, but every gesture, every look, every decision will reveal that they have been led through a journey you did not witness, but heaven has seen clearly. And my beloved child, whether they draw near again or not, I want you to hold fast to this truth. Your shift into a new season carries eternal significance. You must never shrink backward to accommodate anyone, not even one with whom destiny once tied a sacred thread. If their return aligns with your new frequency, the frequency of truth, peace, reverence, and maturity, then it is a gift from heaven. If not, know that your new season will still unfold. For your blessing has never depended on any single human being. It depends on the light I have placed within you. Therefore, the other half of the story is not given for you to wait in anxiety, but for you to understand this as you walk into your destiny. Every soul with a sacred thread connecting to yours must choose either to rise and walk beside you, or to accept being left behind. Your destiny, my beloved child, is already in motion, and each step you take in the light becomes an invitation, a trumpet call, a divine signal to every soul linked to you. Awaken or drift away. My beloved child, the time has come for me to speak to you about what your soul has long awaited, yet perhaps has not fully dared to believe. Nothing you have given me in tears, in faith, in steadfastness, has ever been lost in vain. There were long stretches of your journey where you looked around and saw only traces of what had slipped away, abandoned dreams, broken relationships, years that seemed swallowed by mistakes or confusion. You sighed many times and thought, perhaps it is all gone. Perhaps the most beautiful part of my life has already passed. But my child, I am the one who holds the flow of time in my hands. And today I want you to hear this clearly. I do not merely return to you what you have lost. I restore it in a form that is better, deeper, refined, and worthy of the stature you are now stepping into. The years you believed were wasted, those stretches that looked empty and fruitless in your eyes, were, in mine, seasons of sowing. Every tear you shed for what is right, every time you chose forgiveness instead of vengeance, every time you kept your heart soft when you had every reason to harden it, each of these became a seed. You could not see them sprouting, because they did not grow on the surface of your circumstances. They grew within the depths of your soul. And now, after you have weathered enough storms, after your heart has been refined, after your perception is no longer shallow as before, the harvest of those invisible seeds begins to bloom. What you thought you had lost has in fact been moving toward you in a new form, one that fits the person you have become. My child, the restoration I give is never a simple return of what was taken, as though I merely rewind time. I do not bring you back to where you once stood. I lead you forward into a higher place, where new things carry within them the essence of everything you have lived through. I do not restore relationships to their old shape, because you are no longer who you once were, and they are not who they once were either. If I allow a bond to be restored, it will never be a shallow reconnection, but a new covenant where two souls meet with deeper understanding, with respect, with maturity that did not exist before. And if I reopen an opportunity you thought was closed forever, it will not be the same door you stood before long ago. It will be a wider one, leading to a space that matches the vision, capacity, and faith you now hold. Your old dreams, having passed through the furnace of pain and waiting, are no longer youthful desires colored by longing or emptiness. When I restore them, I transform them into purpose. Before, you may have desired success only for yourself, Now I give you a success through which many will be lifted. Before, you may have sought love to fill the hollow within you. Now I bring a love in which both souls become refuge for each other, growing together, reflecting light together. Before, you may have wanted recognition. Now I place upon you an influence that requires no self-promotion, because the very quality of your soul becomes your voice. There is one thing you must understand when I restore. I always upgrade. If I were to return something to you without upgrading it, you might stumble over the same things again. And so throughout the time you thought you were merely enduring, I was quietly preparing you, restructuring you from within so that you would not only receive, but keep, manage, and cherish what is coming. The overflow I am preparing for you is not a momentary flash of blessing, it is a state of being. It is the condition of a soul filled so completely that old lacks no longer hold the power to dictate your choices. I know there were moments when you stood and looked at your life as though it were an abandoned house after a storm, walls cracked, roof torn, belongings shattered. You once wondered, in silence, how could anything be rebuilt from here? But now, as the season of restoration arrives, I am not merely patching the old walls, I am laying a new foundation for you. I am not simply covering a torn roof, I am establishing over your life a shelter that is stronger, wider, and warmer. I am not returning to you only what you lost, I am bringing things that, without the journey you have just endured, your soul would not have had the depth to receive. That is why, when you step into this moment of fullness, your emotions will not resemble the surprise of receiving an unexpected gift, but the feeling of standing inside a room that has been prepared for you long ago, where everything fits perfectly with the stature you now carry. As you enter this season of fullness, you will feel a reversal in your emotions. The places that once held your deepest wounds will become the very spaces where you sense my gentleness most clearly. The areas that once filled you with shame will turn into the places where you share your story of restoration with a brighter countenance. The days you once thought were meaningless will reveal themselves as the foundation for the wisdom others now seek from you. Fullness is not about possessing many things, it is about having exactly what your soul needs at the right measure, at the right moment, in the right way, until you are no longer governed by the fear of lack. The Archangel Michael has seen this moment long before it arrived. He has stood guard over the parts of your life that seemed ruined, so they would not be destroyed beyond repair. He preserved the pages that seemed torn, so that today, as you step into the season of fullness, He could return them to you with new wholeness. You have never walked toward this day alone. Every moment you refused to give up, every time you stood again when you had only a little strength left, every time you chose to believe, even when the sky was thick with clouds, He took note of it all. And today, when I speak to you about restoration, it is because in the heavenly realm, the scales have tipped. What you have sown, you will reap, not in the barren soil of the past, but in the freshly tilled fields of the future. My beloved child, allow yourself to believe in this season of fullness. Do not doubt the blessing simply because you have grown familiar with lack. Do not fear that you are unworthy of a new garden simply because you have lived too long in wastelands. Do not pull your hand back because of old losses while I am placing something better into it. Let your heart relearn how to open, how to receive without hesitation, how to rejoice without feeling guilty. For this is not a gift you snatched for yourself. This is the harvest you have quietly sown for many years. And when you step into it, you will know not by your intellect, but by that gentle resonance deep in your being that everything you thought was lost was never gone. It was merely waiting ahead in a form far more beautiful, brighter, and more complete. For I am the one who not only restores but renews all things, and the part of your life that is coming, my beloved child, will be the living proof of this truth. O Father, the one who is opening the horizon of my life in this wondrous hour. Let my soul bow before the movement that the heavens are shaping as I open this message. I feel a deep vibration in the spiritual realm, a pull I cannot explain, as though the sky itself has slightly opened and the wind of heaven is brushing against my soul. If this is the moment where destiny bends its course, then let my eyes be illuminated to recognize it. Let the Archangel Michael, who appears in silence as a witness to the opening of destiny, cover me with his radiant sword, cutting through every invisible chain, every negative energy, every arrow sent by those whose intentions carry darkness. Father, if there is a chapter of my life preparing to close, let me cross that threshold with peace. If a new chapter is opening, let me step into it with a ready heart, an awakened mind, and a soul softened to your guidance. Father, open my spiritual eyes so I may understand that behind the quietness of ordinary days is a heavenly realm orchestrating every detail of my life. Let me recognize the invisible interventions of the angels, those who have silently closed harmful doors and removed from my path of people whose hidden intentions would have brought disaster. As the Archangel Michael looks through time to set the foundation for the revelation that is coming, keep my heart steadfast in the light. As your light cuts through the chains of the past, let me step away from yesterday with courage, no longer trembling before shadows that no longer have the power to cling to an awakened soul. Father, grant me discernment so I do not chase illusions, but stand exactly where you have appointed, where I can see the past fall behind me and the new rise before me. O Father, full of mercy, please restore to me the sacred parts of my divine identity that I have lost through the years of wounding, disappointment, and heavy delays. Grant that I may receive back the strength, clarity, and spiritual discernment that once belonged to me but were overshadowed by the season of darkness. As your light increases, let me feel the rebirth of my own soul like a seed breaking through the ground after years of being buried. If the pages of my life were ever torn from my hands by the shadows, may Archangel Michael mend my destiny in the way only the heavens can. Let the spiritual movement of this new season carry me from night into dawn, and let my soul resonate again with the light. As Joel 2:25 declares, I will restore to you the years that were eaten away. Allow me to recognize that now. The divine blueprint of my life is being reestablished. Father, please keep my heart steady in this fragile moment between light and darkness, when the blessing has drawn near yet remains as delicate as the breath of early morning. Grant me enough focus and strength of free will to not lose what you have prepared. As the day of November 18 becomes the intersection between the season of waiting and the season of change, help me stand firm at the breaking point of time where every delay gathers into a single moment of powerful movement. May Archangel Michael continue to guard the doorway of my destiny, and let every force once aimed against me be reversed, fall away, or be redirected to where it rightfully belongs. As your angel shifts position and reinstates protection, allow me to step into this divine reversal with unwavering trust. Lord, let my soul stand within the light to which the universe is now responding, so that I may behold the radiant future that Archangel Michael has seen, the one so beautiful that it moved him to tears. Help me encounter the stronger version of myself, the one you designed from the beginning. Let my intuition become sharp, for I know that intuition is the echo of destiny, the sign by which the future calls. When blessings arrive slowly yet in perfect season, keep my heart from growing weary and help me remain in rhythm with the breath of heaven. Father, if there is a sacred cord connecting my soul to the one who is divinely appointed, let me perceive it in stillness. If the missing half of the story is now being drawn toward me, keep me from confusion and open my heart to receive with holy wisdom. Purify every silence, every distance, every misunderstanding that once clouded the path between two souls. If the one who once overlooked me is now awakening, let their heart be stirred by your light, not by passing emotion, but by the guidance of destiny. Allow the intersection of our two journeys to enter its appointed turning point, where every trial previously endured becomes the firm foundation for a union ordained by heaven. And if the two lines are meant to meet at the exact right time, let that time be now. O Father, let the light within me become so evident that no one can ignore it any longer. If there are those who were once blind to my worth, let them now see, not so that I may be exalted, but so that your light may be revealed. As my soul rises, let every eye turn to witness what you have done. Restore what seemed lost in my life, not merely in its original form, but in a better, fuller, and renewed form. When the season of overflow arrives, let my heart not tremble but stand firm in the outpouring. Allow the universe to lean in my direction, in accordance with the principle that what is right is drawn to the right place, and let what belongs to me find its way back. As blessings shift from the unseen to the seen, open my eyes to recognize them. Father, let me perceive the subtle signals before the blessing appears, the gentle changes of emotion, the strange peace, the intuition that whispers like the breath of heaven. Help me remember what is mine and not fear when the blessing comes close to manifesting. When doors open without explanation, when people's attitudes shift, when messages arrive unexpectedly, let me understand that it is the moment when heaven is bringing blessings from the unseen into the visible world. When the moment of completion arrives, allow my soul to rest and merge with the destiny you have prepared. Let this irreversible transformation carry me into a new dimension of awareness where I am stronger, brighter, and deeper. As the new assignment unfolds and Michael declares that the new season has begun, let me move forward without fear, for my future has stepped out of the shadows into the light and will never return to its former state. I offer this prayer in the holy name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Do not forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so that together we can build a strong community of faith.